Title: The Weight of the Unspoken. I stood before the crumbling facade of my childhood home, an eerie silence wrapping around me like a shroud. The porch creaked beneath my hesitant steps, the shadows of the past pooling with every inch I moved closer to the door. I hadn't stepped foot in this house for nearly 5 years. The voices of my family echoed harshly in my mind, forever seared into my memory like a brand. Insane, my mother had said, her voice dripping with disdain. You're going to lose your mind over this. Nonsense. Delusional, my father had sneered, his words like knives. You'll disgrace us. All because I had dared to believe in something beyond their limited comprehension. I pursued the study of xenoglossy, the unsettling phenomenon of speaking languages unknown to the speaker, often linked to the paranormal. It had begun with a child at the clinic where I worked, a nonverbal girl who uttered warnings only I seemed to hear. They thought I was mad, but in my heart, I knew there was more lurking beneath the surface, something ancient that spoke through her. Years passed, and what started as mockery transformed into a burning obsession. I endured the isolation, the ridicule, and the dismissive laughter until I clawed my way into a world where my insights were not only acknowledged, but feared. I had become a respected expert in paranormal linguistics, a name whispered in dark corners of academia. Yet, the darkness that fueled my research left me scarred, marked by the very entities I had sought to understand. Now, standing on this familiar doorstep, I could almost hear those whispers again, disbelieving, mocking. I forced myself to knock, the sound echoing like the tolling of a bell. Moments later, the door swung open, revealing the startled faces of my family. Their eyes widened in disbelief, flickering with the recognition of who I had become. I was no longer their pathetic daughter, the one shunned and ridiculed. I was a warning, a chilling reminder of what happens when the veil between our world and the other is thin. "Is that really you?" my mother stammered, her hand tremoring against the doorframe. "Come in," my father said, though I could see the tension in his jaw. They were curious but apprehensive, as if my very presence might crack the foundations of their reality. As I stepped inside, the air felt heavy, laden with unsaid words and unacknowledged truths. The living room was just as I remembered, stale, cluttered with memories I had long since buried. But there was something else, an unmistakable chill that sent shivers racing down my spine. "Why are you here?" my younger brother asked, his voice laced with confusion. "To gloat?" "No," I said, my voice steady, though it trembled with the weight of what I carried. "I'm here to show you." They exchanged glances, a whirlwind of disbelief and wariness swirling in their eyes. They had wanted me to return a failure, a disgrace, but I had come to deliver a truth they could no longer deny. "Do you remember the child?" I asked, my heart pounding as I spoke her name. "Mira?" Their faces darkened, the memory of their rejection flooding back. "What about her?" my father snapped. "She spoke," I whispered, my voice barely a breath. "And what she said, it haunts me. I've spoken to others who spoke back." I paused, letting that sink in. "I've encountered entities, dark forces that speak through the languages of the dead." A flicker of fear crossed my mother's face, but they pressed me for more. They wanted to understand, to validate their beliefs, but they had no inkling of the horrors I had lived. I reached into my bag, pulling out a worn notebook filled with my research, notes scrawled in languages that twisted my own tongue. When I opened it, an unsettling hush fell. The air thickened, and from the pages a low whisper emerged, wrapping around us like smoke. The voice was not mine, but something older, much older, flowing from the ink, coaxing and pleading yet laced with something more sinister. "This is what I uncovered," I said, voice trembling as the room grew colder. "The languages of the lost, They communicate through the living. Suddenly, an unseen force slammed the door shut behind us. The walls trembling as if the house itself was awakening. The whispers escalated, a cacophony of voices rising to a fever pitch, and my family recoiled, terror painting their faces. "Please stop," my mother cried, clutching at her chest. "This isn't funny." "I'm not joking," I said, the truth spilling forth. "You ridiculed me. You pushed me away when all I wanted was to warn you." The sounds grew louder, echoing off the walls, twisting their words of disbelief into a nightmarish symphony. Shadows twisted, reaching for my family like fingers of the damned, their laughter now choked by the weight of their own hubris. In that moment they saw what they would now understand the depths of my obsession, the darkness I had pulled from the abyss and borne like a shroud. As I stepped back, the light faded from their eyes, each of their silhouettes swallowed by the shadows that I had sought to expose. I had warned them, and now they lay trapped within the very horrors they once dismissed. I made my way to the door, the whispers fading, leaving me hollow. I paused on the threshold, casting one last glance at the home that had once been my haven. They would never grasp the profound depths of what I had learned and endured, twisted by their ignorance. But I would carry the burden of their disbelief, and perhaps, in time, I would learn to forgive them, for I, too, had been one of the lost. As the door creaked shut behind me, the chill of the air lifted, but the echoes of their cries remained etched in my mind.